Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect and it was really hard because I wanted to do a life story, and that's actually really hard to do in 10 minutes. So I had to do the best I could, and so I had to write it down because there was just no way I was going to be able to get that all in 10 minutes. So, hi everyone, my name is Rachel Minnick, and I can stand here proudly today and say I'm an overcomer of drug abuse, sex abuse, toxic love, and depression. I'm currently living out my calling and purpose given by God, and I am proud to say I am living my full, authentic self. I am working at least 10 of my dream jobs because I refuse to be put in the world's box any longer. I used to think I had to work for survival, but now I realize the only way I was going to truly survive was to do the jobs I authentically have been called to do, because no amount of money was going to fill the deep depths of my soul that could only be filled by doing my purpose. I have been told by everyone I love, and those that don't even know me, how I should look, what I should do with my life for work, and basically how I should spend every waking moment of my life to live up to the standards and expectations everyone else has on me. My breaking point was a full-blown anxiety attack many nights and moments right before I had to go to work at a job where I was unappreciated, chastised, overworked, underpaid, told what I was doing wrong much more than what I was doing right, and literally killing myself to keep a job that could never pay all of my bills, no matter how much I worked, what I did, and at home my life was falling apart. The anxiety attacks gave me a breakthrough because for once in my life I started to listen to myself instead of everyone else. My body, mind, and spirit were trying to tell me something, and I truly had no choice but to listen. The beginning of my problems started as a newborn baby. I was born to two parents who both had unhealed traumas of their own. So naturally, that was going to tremendously affect little old me. You see, I was born with the wonderful gift of sensitivity. This gift was given to me by God so that I could be sensitive to His Holy Spirit. It also gave me the superpower to be very compassionate and understanding for others. However, when Satan found out my gifting, he pounced on that opportunity to use it against me. Because as great as a gift as it can be, it also causes immense vulnerability to be hurt very easily. So it was already a disadvantage and a recipe for disaster as a child to be born into a large family with two unhealed parents who both came from very toxic families. My dad had an abusive alcoholic dad. His mom was a people-pleasing codependent. My mom's dad was a passive workaholic, and her mom was a scandalous baby born out of an extramarital affair who was raised by her grandmother into a bold, witty, but harsh, controlling, alcoholic woman. So my low self-esteem was actually developed and manifested before I was even born. Because how could my parents truly love me unconditionally and build up my self-esteem when it wasn't modeled for them and they didn't even know how to love themselves? It is helpful to understand why this happened, but it doesn't erase the pain of not feeling loved, valued, and accepted by my parents and family. Fun fact, since babies have no way to communicate with words, that means they must use nonverbal communication to connect and communicate with their caregivers. So I learned at a very young age that in order to get my needs met, I needed to be accepted by my mother. And how I received acceptance was to accommodate her needs instead of having the full freedom of enjoying my first years of life as a carefree, completely helpless, yet safely nurtured baby. I had to grow up before I was ready and missed out on the very vital developmental time in my life to just be a baby. I learned that I needed to make my mother happy so she would take care of me. And when I wasn't making her happy, I was less likely to get my needs met. So I believe at the age of 0 is where I developed a common toxic behavior known as codependency, which is where I learned that in order to survive, I needed to be accepted. And in order to be accepted, I needed to abandon myself and care more about the needs of others than myself. The church further cemented this by instilling in me that I needed to be like Jesus, sacrificing myself for the sake of others. not realizing that we can't love and help our neighbor until we love and help ourselves first. The enemy has a way of twisting and perverting good that God has created into something evil. Luckily, no matter what I've been through in life, I always knew God was right there with me. His word says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Hebrews 13:5. But he does allow free will, and free will led to humanity sinning, which disconnected us from God and has been multiplying for generation after generation, leaving a God-sized hole in all of us that can only be filled through him. But the devil has warped all of us into believing something else is going to satisfy that void that was only created to connect us to God. The disconnect and rejection I felt from my mother caused me to have low self-worth, which led to me looking to find that validation in something. And at 5 years old, that something was boys and sexual activity. Feeling so good in the moment, but left me feeling more broken than before. Again, robbing me of my carefree childhood. Instead, leaving me to deal with adult emotional problems as a vulnerable, neglected 5-year-old. That's when the depression really took over. There was literally never a time in my life I can remember from childhood that I didn't feel depressed, which led to my next downfall. Believing the lie that I was born with a chemical imbalance. So obviously, the most logical thing to do with a chemical imbalance is to add more chemicals to the missing ones. So at age 14, I tried pot for the first time. And for a whopping 5 whole minutes after I inhaled, I, for the first time in my life, felt the feeling of what it felt like to be happy, to not be tormented by the thoughts, and the little black cloud lifted. I felt what it felt like to finally enjoy being alive. Unfortunately, I knew it was wrong before I ever did it, and it only lasted for about 5 to 20 minutes, followed by horrific side effects, and an off-again, on-again battle for 20 years, with drugs increasing by the years. I would say I was trapped in a living hell, all in my mind, for about 33 years, while looking perfectly fine and capable, acceptable to the outside world. What changed my life was a combination of God's grace, a healthy, supportive recovery community, and my willingness to finally fight for my life back that was stolen from me as a child. Today I can say I'm in recovery for codependency, which was the actual root cause of my problems, on top of the spiritual war that God has finally revealed to me is happening. In Ephesians 6:12, it says, "For our struggle is not with flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against authorities and powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in heavenly realms." Today, I am proud to say I am living out my dreams. I am able to help people every day with the knowledge and experience I have to share with others. I get to teach dance to people, which is so rewarding, and I actually get paid for it. And lastly, I get to be creative almost every day, making music and videos for others to brighten their days, not only to get paid to do this, but feel good about what I'm doing, because I know I'm being my true, authentic, and unapologetic self. Last but not least, this summer, I'll be hosting an event with the YMCA called Recovery for Everybody. And this is going to be at the band Shell, Saturday, September 3rd, 4 to 10 p.m. Everyone is welcome. And with this, I'm going to end with a little rap, because I'm a little rapper. So, yeah, I was locked up in bondage, but not after I was set free by Jesus. He loves us so much. It makes me so curious, because we are people he just can't trust. But we can trust Jesus, who resides inside of us, who will keep us just enough to, I don't know my words, what? I'm nervous, I'm sorry, but thank you guys.
Thank you, Rachel. Next up, we've got Joy, if she's here and ready.